Good morning, class. Now, before we proceed to the next lesson, let me ask you something. Have you ever sent a message that someone completely misunderstood? Maybe you texted your friend just a short okay, and suddenly they thought you were mad at them. Have you experienced that? Mm-hmm. Or maybe you left a comment online that someone took the wrong way, even though you didn't mean it like that. It's funny, isn't it? A single word, or even how we punctuate our sentences, can totally change the entire meaning of what we're trying to say. That's how powerful written words are. They can build bridges of understanding or create walls of confusion. Now, imagine that happening in your own classroom when we become teachers. Let's say you post instructions on the board, but half of your students do the wrong thing. Not because they weren't listening, but because your written directions weren't clear enough. Now, as future educators, as future teachers, that's something we can't afford to overlook. Our students will rely on our written words, our lesson plans, our feedback, our announcements to guide not only their task, but also their motivation and confidence. That's why today, we'll talk about one of the most important yet often underestimated skills in teaching, the written communication. What is written communication? Written communication simply means sharing of ideas through writing using words, sentences, and tone to deliver meaning clearly and effectively. But for us teachers, it's more than just a grammar or a spelling. It's about using language to inform, to instruct, inspire, and connect with others, whether it's students, parents, or colleagues. Think of it this way: written communication is your voice on paper, okay? It represents your clarity of thought, your professionalism, and your compassion as a teacher. In our daily work, you'll use written communication in many different scenarios. First, we have prepare and organize lesson plans and instructional materials. Second, we are using it to provide constructive feedback for our students, communicate with parents, colleagues, and administrators, as well as documenting reports, reflections, or any official correspondence. Each of these written tasks carries weight because the words you write not only share information, but also reflect who we are as a teacher. Now that we understand what written communication is, let's explore why it matters so much for us educators. Why is written communication so important in teaching? Well, teaching isn't just about talking in front of your students. It's about connecting through every message you give, whether it's spoken or written. Every word you write in your lesson plans, student feedback, or even an email reflects on who you are as a teacher. It shows your clarity of thought, your professionalism, and your commitment to your students' learning. Yes. Now, to understand this better, let's go through the 4K reasons why written communication truly matters for every teacher. Okay, first we have the instructional clarity. Class. Imagine this. You write on the board, do the test, do the test. Now, what do you think will happen? Exactly. Some students might start drawing, some might write paragraphs, and others might just stare, all confused. But if you write in your notebook, list 3 ways to help the environment and explain why each one matters. In that way, your students instantly know what to do, how to do it, and what's expected. See the difference? That's what we call instructional clarity. It's about making your written directions and objectives clear so students can follow them easily. When our writing is clear, our class runs smoothly and no one is left guessing. But clarity isn't the only thing that matters. The next step is learning how to guide our students through the words we write. And that's where feedback and evaluation comes in. Now let's move on to feedback. What do we mean by that? When we say feedback, this is considered as one of the most powerful forms of teacher communication. Let's consider this scenario. Okay? A teacher writes on a student's paper, improve this. How do you think the student might feel? Sad? Confused? Exactly. The student might feel sad, confused, discouraged, and unsure of what to do. But if the teacher writes, great start, try adding more examples to support your idea, that same student feels encouraged and guided. See? That's the magic of constructive feedback. It helps students grow, not give up. So remember, when you write comments, think of them as your voice saying, I believe in you. Here's how you can do even better. Okay? Next, let's talk about how we write to other professionals, like principals or co teachers. This is where our writing shows our professionalism and respect. Let's compare these two emails. The first one says, need a report ASAP. And the second one says, good morning, ma'am. May I kindly ask for the report by 3 p.m. today? Thank you. Which one sounds better? The second one. That's right. Both mean the same thing, but only the second one sounds respectful and professional. Now, finally, let's talk about communication with parents. Teachers and parents are partners in helping children succeed, and our written messages help strengthen that partnership. For example, if you become a teacher, you'll say this to a parent, one of the parent of your of from one of your student. Let's say, good day, Mr. and Mrs. Cruz. I'd like to share that your son Miguel showed great improvement in class participation this week. That message builds trust, positivity, and collaboration. But if we write something unclear, like Miguel's behavior is okay now, parents might be left wondering, what happened before? Or is that good or bad? So our letters and messages to parents should always be clear, respectful, and specific. Because good communication builds stronger connections between home and school. Now that we've learned what written communication is and why it's so important in our profession as future teachers, it's time to take it one step further by learning how to make our writing more effective. Are you guys excited? Okay. So there are 5 key elements that every teacher should remember for an effective written communication. First, we have the clarity. Let's start it with clarity. Yes. Being clear and direct is the heart of good writing. Avoid using complicated words when simple ones work better. For example, instead of saying, kindly ensure the prompt submission of your project outputs, you'll say, please submit your project on time. See how simple and easy that sounds? Now that we know clarity helps make our message easy to understand, let's proceed to something that reflects how we sound in writing, because that is also considered as one of the important things that we need to consider. It is our tone. Your tone shows your attitude. As teachers, we should always use a tone that's respectful, encouraging, and professional. Remember, our words can either motivate or discourage our learners. For example, instead of saying, you didn't listen to my instructions, say, let's review the instructions together to make sure everyone understands. A kind tone builds trust and confidence. Once we've set the right tone, the next step is to organize our thoughts properly. And that's where organization comes in. It is the third element. Good writing has structure. It has a clear beginning, middle, and end. When your ideas are well organized, your readers can easily follow and understand your message. For example, let's say your introduction here is, here are the reminders for our upcoming quiz. For your body, let's say, please review lessons 1 to 3 and bring your calculator. For your ending, let's say, good luck and don't forget to study well. That simple structure keeps your message clear and complete. After organizing your ideas, it's also important to make sure writing looks and sounds correct. The grammar and mechanics. This is the fourth element. Your grammar, spelling, and punctuation show professionalism. Mistakes can make your message confusing or even funny sometimes. For example, let's eat, student, means you're inviting them to eat together. But let's eat, students, means something completely different. And that's why punctuation matters. Accuracy reflects your credibility as a teacher. Now, after being clear, respectful, organized, and grammatically correct, there's one last element we must not forget. It's the purpose. Always know why you're writing. Try to ask yourself, am I writing to inform, to instruct, or to motivate? Because again, when your purpose is clear, your words become more focused and your message becomes more powerful. Let's have this example to inform, okay? Our class will be moved to room 205. Let's have an example for to instruct. Complete the worksheet before 3 p.m. And if we are writing to motivate, we can write, I believe you can all do great in our next quiz. When these five elements come together, our message becomes clear, professional, and effective. Now that we've learned what makes learning effective, let's make it more practical. Knowing the elements isn't enough. We also need to know how to apply them in our daily communication as teachers. So I will going to present to you some practical writing tips for us future teachers. So first we have plan before you write. Before writing, pause and think. What is my purpose? Are you writing to inform, to instruct, or to motivate? Example. Before sending a message to parents, decide if you want to update them about the grades or invite them to a school activity. This helps you choose the right words and tone. After planning your purpose, make sure your message is clear. And that brings us to the second tip, which is to be specific and clear. Let's avoid vague or general statements. For example, instead of saying submit your activity soon, say submit your activity on Friday before 5 p.m. Specific messages prevent confusion and missed deadlines. Now, aside from clarity, our tone still plays a big role in how our message is received. So we have to maintain a positive tone. Words can either build or break confidence. As teachers, we should use a tone that motivates. Example, say, you did a good job improving your handwriting, instead of, your handwriting is still messy. A positive tone encourages students to do better. And of course, while being positive, we must also keep our words simple and direct. So there comes in the tip number 4. Use concise and simple language. Good writing doesn't have to be complicated. The clearer your words, the more professional your message. Example, instead of writing due to the fact that, you can simply write because. Short and simple words make your message easier to understand. And that's what matters most. Now that you've written your message clearly and kindly, there's one more thing to do before hitting the send button. Can you guess what that is? Yes. Proofread your work. Always double check your message before posting or submitting it. Example: read your announcement aloud or ask a colleague to review it to spot small errors you might have missed. And finally, let's not forget that most of our communication today happens online. So it is important for us to, yes, adapt to digital communication. Whether it's through emails, chats, or learning platforms, professionalism still matters, even in digital spaces. For example, avoid saying, "Hey guys, submit your work please." Instead, write, "Hi everyone, please remember to submit your work by 5 p.m. today. Thank you." That sounds more polite, mature, and professional. Just how a teacher should communicate. As we can see, written communication isn't just a classroom skill, it's a professional life skill. Future educators, always remember this. Even the smallest word can make a big difference. The way you write okay instead of just okay can change how someone feels. In the same way, the way you write your feedback, your instructions, and messages can shape how your students understand and learn. That means every word you write as a teacher carries meaning. That's why writing should always come from a place of clarity, kindness, and purpose. Because when your words inspire understanding, they also inspire learning. As the saying goes, the pen is mightier than the sword. But for us teachers, future teachers, the teacher's pen builds both minds and hearts. So let's all commit to writing with clarity, kindness, and purpose, not just to communicate, but to connect, to guide, and to inspire. Because in the hands of a teacher, words don't just teach lessons, they touch lives. Once again, this is Jenny. Thank you, and may we all continue to write with heart and purpose.